Let's make a notebook cover. Welcome to Anchored Leatherworks. So I had some leather and a notebook sitting around. I was feeling a little uninspired this morning with the help of my coffee. I decided to finally do one of these refillable notebook journal, like a bullet journal, refillable notebook, diary. A lot of people use these for travel, for um, daily journals, notebooks, whatever. And I've been wanting to do one. And it's just a nice little elastic uh, band that goes through, elastic cord that goes through a piece of leather. So I've got some of this gorgeous Italian embossed leather. Now I don't know what those patterns, what I drew those for. I have like 30 different projects in progress. I very rarely finish any projects. I start a lot of stuff and I never finish them. So be happy that this is one I finished. Anyway, let's take a look at our notebook. It is a 4-inch wide by 5.5-inch tall notebook. So when it's all opened up, it's 8 inches wide or long by 5.5 inches tall. Now we're going to need to add a little space around that. So we'll take that into account. As you can see, we just have enough leather. This could almost be considered a scrap leather project. We want to square up the leather and make sure that the project actually fits on there and make sure we have an allowance. Now, one of the allowances you have to always pay attention to is the bend. You have to make sure that you account for the leather that wraps around something, because the thickness of the leather adds length. You have to account for the length of the leather because of the thickness when it bends around like the notebook. So you have to account for adding the thickness of the notebook and the thickness of the leather. So in this case, it came out to adding about a 1/4 inch, and then I just added a 1/4 inch all around. So we've got it all squared up. I use an arc punch. This is just a little easy way to punch the corners so I don't have to sit there and cut them. For this roughed out journal, this is the first time I'm making one of these, so I figured it was pretty easy. Now this is Tokenol. My best guess is that this is some kind of thinned out Elmer's glue. What it does is it provides a nice protective finish. When you have a piece of full grain leather, the inside of that leather, it has a very suede-like surface, and sometimes it's a little too rough. And in this case, with that piece of leather, it was definitely a little too straggly looking. So a little Tokenol and clean it right up. Now here I'm just totally guesstimating where my marks are, other than they're exactly in the center of the length of the leather. I believe I went in a 1/2 inch on the first one, and then a 1/4 inch down from that, and then so there's 5 holes, 2 on either end, and then 1 in the middle. Once again, I'm just guesstimating on the hole. Take a look at your elastic cord and make a best guess. You want the elastic cord to fit through, but you need just a little more room, because some of the times you're going to have the cord go through there twice. So just a little bit bigger diameter hole than the diameter of the cord. And this is the moment I decided to add a little tab. I saw this on another video where they had just a protective tab that goes around so that the cord itself isn't cutting into your notebook. And I really like that, so I figured, yeah, let's try and make one of these. Once again, I use an arc punch. And I'm going to put the Tokenol on there. That'll help smooth it out, give it a nice clean surface. And I'm just guesstimating here. There's nothing precise about this. You can eyeball this. For the first one, clearly I'm not making any patterns to do this again. This is just kind of a one-off. I needed something to break the monotony of this uninspiredness I've had, so I needed to for some inspiration. And sometimes you don't have to be very technical with these. You can just kind of wing it. And you'll see a lot of that in this project. You'll see a lot of just figuring it out as I go, especially this cord. So I was trying to figure out what the best way was to route this cord. And I've seen a couple other videos. Did watch a couple other videos say, hey, how are other people doing this? And there was a couple of ways I liked, but there was none that I really liked. I wanted to do it all in one cord. Most of them were doing it with two cords. And so they would have a cord that they would tie a knot in that would hold the notebook in, and then they'd have the cord that wrapped around as the closure. And I was like, well, why can't you just use one cord for both? So that's what I tried to do. And so I had to figure out the routing. Now I cut like a couple minutes of video out of this because I had to do this and then undo it, and then, yeah. Anyway, so what you see me using here is I took a needle and I put a long piece of just scrap thread on it, and then I tied a big loop in the thread. And so what you do is you just pull the cord through that loop a little bit. You don't tie a knot, you don't do anything fancy, you just pull it through the loop. And then when you thread that needle through the hole and you pull the thread through the hole, you pull that threaded loop through the hole, it's going to pull the cord through the hole. And it's a nice, easy way to stitch the cord into the notebook. So far, this is looking pretty good, except that I figured out why everybody was doing it the other way. They do it two different ways so that the tension remains on the notebook when you take the outer piece off. Well, I think I can still make this work. Instead of just two cords with two knots, I'm just going to have one knot. And they always have a knot in the center anyway. So right here, I'm just trying to figure out, do I want the knot on the inside or the outside? And I finally decided to undo it a little bit and do the knot on the inside. Every other journal notebook I saw also had the knots on the inside. Yeah, so that's what I went with. And you want to have a decent amount of tension on that cord. You don't want to have it just loose because you don't want your notebook to slide out, right? It has to hold the notebook in, but you don't want to wear the cord out. So you can see that knot is just about right. And so I'm pulling the two ends back through and get those through, and then I can work on the closure. And we are almost done, I promise. And then figure out how to wrap it through the little end band or end protector piece. I kind of wish I'd have done that in a different leather. I think a nice contrasty dark brown leather would have looked really cool. Yeah, maybe even just a little stiffer leather. This is a pretty soft, flexible leather, and so that kind of the tension of the cord on that little piece just curls it up pretty good. Last second, I was just going to knot it, but last second I had a bead in one of my trays here, and I threw a bead on it. So, yeah, kind of an impromptu. Wasn't sure what to build this morning when I got up, and did this. And then you'll see once again a lot of impromptu decisions on the fly here. So I didn't even know how I was going to do this. I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's add a silk bookmark. It's a nice little spool, a 7mm wide, 100% pure silk ribbon. I burnt the end pretty good there when I was sealing the end so it wouldn't unravel. Finally, I decided to pull it through the top two holes. So there's actually going to be two ribbons. I was thinking at first I was just going to knot it on the inside and then have it one piece come down. But yeah, I cut it long enough. I was able to put the both pieces there. Just tie it in the middle, put both pieces, and then we have two bookmarks. You can put one in the back and one in the front, however you want to do it. And let's see, I'm just fumbling with this. Putting the bookmark in. We're back to normal speed on the video. It's a good sign that we're almost done. Bookmarks are in. The closure mechanism works. Just have to, yeah, there you go. And overall, I think this worked out really nice. I like the amount of material, the extra material on the end. So adding that 1/4 all around gave me an 1/8 of an inch on each, right? Because I added a 1/4 inch, and so it's a 1/8 inch on the top, 1/8 inch on the bottom, 1/8 inch on each of the other edges. So it worked out pretty nice. This is a pretty simple project for a beginner. These elastic cord you can get from a craft store or Amazon, and yeah, you don't have to do the silk bookmark. It's just a pretty straightforward, simple project after you do one. Once again, appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. Please like the video. That helps the channel out. And stay tuned for more content. Thanks.